I'll tell you, I love the food here in Louisiana. Who doesn't love the food in Louisiana? Raise your hand, because I think we all do, right? And I just tasted that pastelaya. It's outstanding, I think. Don't y'all think? I thought so too. I love the food, and whenever I travel, I tell people it's the best. The food in Louisiana is the best ever, anywhere. All right, let me see if I can pull my slides up. Oh, I think I'm this one. Yeah. Okay, so I was asked to speak about herbs, supplements, and probiotics. No small feat in 30 minutes. Anyway, we'll try. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of these herbs that, and some of these you might not consider as herbs, but if you're a member of an herb society or a botanical council, they look at all plants. So anyway, I did want to mention blueberries and cranberries because there are some studies that have been done here at the Pennington Center on blueberries. And there is definite research to show that both blueberries and cranberries have components that can help prevent urinary tract infections. Now, it's not a treatment. They are not a treatment. So once you have UTI, you have to go to the doctor and get antibiotics. But if you consume them consistently, it can prevent, because there's actually a compound in them that prevents the bacteria from adhering to the wall and for the bacteria then to start growing and reproducing. There's also the same ability to keep the H. pylori bacteria from attaching to your intestines. So, and it also helps reduce dental plaque for that same reason, because the bacteria doesn't adhere to your teeth. So having these berries regularly is really a great idea. Another one I wanted to speak about is Cayenne. You know, we use that a lot here in Louisiana. There's probably some here in that pastelaya we are eating. And the thing is, you can put as much or as little cayenne in the foods as you want. You know, if you don't tolerate hot food, you can just put a little bit. But if you tolerate, you can put it to the extent you want. And then there are even hotter peppers than cayenne, what I understand. But it has been proven that it can help osteoarthritic pain. So if you get it in a lotion or cream and you rub that on your hands or joints that are hurting, it actually evidently prevents that. There's a particular compound that is sent to the brain from that site, and it prevents that compound from being released, so therefore you get relief from pain. And it's particularly useful after surgery. So if you have a surgical scar and you want it, and it's painful, and you want to reduce that, you can apply for that. And the same thing for low back pain. So if you have low back pain regularly, you can just apply some of that lotion on, and it should help. I also wanted to talk about flax a little bit, because it's one of the very useful compounds or plants to incorporate in your diet if you have intestinal complications or you have constipation that you suffer from, because it's really useful for that, and because it also is high in fiber, it lowers your lipid levels, and it tends to lower the LDL cholesterol, which is the bad cholesterol. And it also improves insulin sensitivity, because as a fiber, it delays glucose absorption in the intestinal tract. So you don't have to get the big spikes after a meal for insulin or glucose. So there's one study, though, where it did also reduce the good cholesterol in men, HDL. Whether or not that is something that happens every time is just going to show with further research. Now, one thing you need to know about flax, if you do incorporate it in your diet, you have to have it ground. If you eat the flax seeds, the coating is not going to be something that your intestinal tract can digest through. So you're going to excrete whole flax seeds. So you have to get it ground. Buy it ground, or if you have a really good food processor that you can grind them at home. So make sure that you grind your flax if you use it. There's also a lot of research on garlic. It has been shown to lower cholesterol. It slows the development of atherosclerosis, meaning the hardening of arteries where you have buildup of LDL or cholesterol in your bloodstream. So constant or regular intake of garlic can help keep that at bay. And there's reasons to show that it actually lowers blood pressure as well. And certain cancers are delayed or prevented, colon, liver, and pancreatic cancer. Now, one of the things, and garlic is part of the whole onion family, so all of those foods that are in the onion family do the same thing. Unfortunately, in some individuals, you might also have intolerance to a compound in them called allicin. And if you do, you know it because you have intestinal problems, you have a lot of gas, diarrhea, and that's a product of being intolerant of allicin. And that, in those cases, then that would mean that you wouldn't be able to, for example, consume a lot of garlic. I also wanted to mention green tea, or tea in general, whether it's green, black, white, oolong. Those are all different types of tea. They actually, black, green, and white come from the same plant, and it's just a matter of processing which one it ends up being, whether it's white, green, or black. Black tea is the most processed type of tea, but they all have the same compounds. Now, they lose some of the compounds during processing, hence green tea and particularly white tea are really the best. But there's a lot of research actually that have been done on the components of tea. Again, they do many things. Prevent dental caries from forming if you have tea regularly. Now that means unsweetened tea. You're all here in South Louisiana. What do we put a lot in the tea? Right. That's not going to prevent any kind of dental caries, is it? Might be a cause of some. So watch your sugar, how much you put that in your tea. It also improves mental alertness. There's a compound in it that increases your metabolic rate. You know when you have coffee and you get this flush and your heart rate goes up, right? That's caffeine. Well, the compound in green tea increases your metabolic rate, but it doesn't increase your heart rate. So it's actually better for you in many ways if you're concerned about your heart rate increasing, to have green tea rather than caffeine. And it's been shown to lower cholesterol. Regular consumption actually also helps prevent skin from sun damage. Not that you shouldn't still apply sunblock. Yes, you should. But your skin may not be as sensitive to sun as it would be without it. Another one that shows that there's been research is rosemary. And where are my student helpers? I have some herbs in here. We're going to just pass them around. So you can, there's mint and rosemary, I believe we have. So you can, rosemary smells so good, doesn't it, when you have fresh? So it's in the stores right now. If you go to a store and gardening store, they're starting to have the fresh herbs out. I encourage you to plant it at home. It's really easy. If you just put it in a flower pot, it'll grow. And rosemary is a perennial too, as is mint actually, both of them are. So rosemary will live as long as you take sort of even moderate care of it. Now, some of you might know, I'm going to jump into and just talk a little bit about mint too in terms of growing it. You know that mint will take over your flower bed, right? Don't put it in the flower bed unless you have definite borders going deep, because it sends roots out and it pretty soon will take over the whole bed. So anyway, rosemary is in a lot of Mediterranean foods. It has shown to improve memory. It's good for your digestive tract in terms of indigestion. It helps ease muscle and joint pain. It even helps with hair loss. And it neutralizes harmful bacteria. And actually there are some of these, like rosemary and mint, they have compounds that are actually used in food processing to prevent the bacterial growth. So they are wonderful for that. Now mint, the peppermint oil has sort of antispasmodic properties, so it'll help again with intestinal issues if you have some. It helps with irritable bowel syndrome, upset stomachs. Again, the oils in it inhibit bacterial growth, so it's used already in food processing. And in the folk medicine, it's been used to treat fevers, gas, and spastic colon. Now, tarragon is an herb that actually has been clinically studied here at the Pennington Center. Dr. Cephalou, who is the director of the Pennington Center, he has a botanical center, and he's done studies on tarragon. Some of you may be familiar with those studies and might have even participated in them. The tarragon that he's talking about is the Artemisia kind, and you have two. You have the French, which is the finer herb, and you have the Russian. Russian herb is the hardier one, and that's what he uses. It's not as flavorful, but it grows as a bush outside, evidently, in the wild. The French tarragon, you have to take better care of it, but it's a wonderful herb to use in foods. There's another herb called Mexican marigold mint, which is actually a completely different plant, but it has very similar flavor to tarragon, and it has similar compounds. They all have polyphenols. The tarragon, the Russian tarragon that Dr. Cephalou has used actually helps. He does diabetes research, and what the tarragon does is improves insulin sensitivity. That means it sends the glucose in your bloodstream into the muscles and cells to be used without needing as much insulin for that process to happen. The Mexican marigold, by the way, I call it tarragon. I planted it, and it's a perennial. It's wonderful. It's got beautiful yellow flowers at the end of the season in the fall. And it just has a wonderful, swift, every time you go outside, I go and there's a little wind breeze. It smells really good, so I highly recommend. And if you can grow French tarragon, it might not like the heat in here, but you might be able to maybe grow it in greenhouse. Sage is another plant that we use a lot here, actually, in Louisiana, in our cuisine. It's been shown to improve mood and mental performance, improves memory and attention, enhances thinking, and particularly it's been used with individuals who might have Alzheimer's disease to improve their condition. And again, this is a plant that has antimicrobial properties, so it's already used by food industry. When it says natural ingredients used in process or in that product, it might be some of these herbs that are being used. Another spice, sort of, that we call a turmeric spice, has been studied here at the Pennington Center. by Dr. Hansel, who does cancer research. And curcumin, the active ingredient in turmeric, is a strong anti-inflammatory compound. And it is an anti-cancer, so it kills cancer cells, many different types. It's a strong antioxidant. It can also relieve osteoarthritis. It can help reduce cholesterol for heart disease. And in India, they actually use turmeric in creams also for skin. And they actually, there's a holiday when they actually have turmeric sort of thrown on people, and it goes on the skin, and it's supposed to be really good for your skin as well. And it's probably because it is a strong antioxidant. Now, in terms of supplements, there are a lot of different types of products out there now that have been supplemented. And there was a study done recently about individuals and their intake of supplements and the safe limits. And it's evidently a lot of people consume supplements. They consume supplements and they consume these enriched foods. So, and many times the individuals who are consuming those supplements are also eating really well. So if you eat really well, are you going to need the supplements as well? No, not necessarily. But evidently in 2014, Americans spent $11 billion on vitamins and $36 billion on vitamins and nutraceutical functional foods. But as I mentioned, if you see, this is just one product that was in the store, these vitamin waters, which have been popping up recently. They're everywhere. Every grocery store has them. And people are drinking them. There are supplements that are essential and necessary for certain groups of individuals. For example, folic acid is in prenatal vitamins. And all women, menstruating women who have potential of becoming pregnant should really be making sure that they get adequate folic acid. What are some of the foods that have folic acid in them? Anybody know? Greens. Green leafy vegetables, orange juice are some of the best sources of folic acid. Iron is kind of interesting because all babies who are growing, pregnant women should have, make sure that they have the prenatal vitamins that has larger dose of iron. Any women, menstruating women should have iron, because what happens if you don't get enough? You get anemia, and you get tired, lethargic, you don't want to do anything. So to prevent that, you want to make sure that you get adequate iron. But what's the best source of iron? Meats. Red meat is the best source of iron. Liver, that's right. But how many people? Okay, let's take a hand. Who eats liver? Oh, good. Good. I'm surprised. Well, that's great. I'm proud of y'all. I just didn't think a lot of people were eating liver, so I didn't mention it. But oh, evidently Piccadilly has liver every day. Okay, that's good to know. Well, that's wonderful. I'm glad y'all are having it. Now, iron is really necessary and important for, as I mentioned, children, babies, infants whose brain is growing. Now, once you go past menopause, y'all women, including me, we shouldn't be having those supplements with iron. Or men should not have really supplements with iron, because it's actually also an oxidant. So it can potentially even cause heart attacks and be harmful and build up. So all young individuals, all pregnant women, all women who are menstruating, yes, iron. If you're postmenopausal, you're male, don't. But who eats the most red meat? Men. All right. Another types of supplements are calcium and vitamin D, and those really go hand in hand because calcium absorption is enhanced by vitamin D. But where do we get vitamin D from? From the sun, right? Sun striking your skin. But if you use a lot of sunblock, that's not going to happen. It's also added into milk. And the reason is really to help that calcium to get absorbed. All pregnant women, again, should have extra calcium. And here, these are the calcium recommendations for various age groups. And you see that from 9 to 18 years, male and female, the recommended intake is about 1,300 milligrams. That's about 3.5 cups of milk. You can also have soy milk if you're lactose intolerant, or almond milk because they add calcium into all of those. But it's really important for the young individuals, particularly young girls, when they go on diets, not to cut their milk intake or substitute something else that is high in calcium, because your bones are growing and developing as long as there's linear growth. So that's about probably 18 years old for girls and about 21 for boys. That's the only time you're going to be able to build the bones as strong as you can. After that, it's just maintenance. So if you didn't build strong bones to begin with, you're never going to have strong bones then as an adult. So make sure your girls and boys are all drinking their milk or having, if they are not, then make sure that they have a supplement. The preferable thing is to have milk, almond or soy milk. And then, of course, postmenopausal women, again, need to have more calcium and vitamin D because of what? What happens? Osteoporosis, that's right. And it's very common. It's very debilitating. That's when you break your hips. It's not going to heal. You have huge medical costs then for the rest of your life. So you want to prevent that as much as possible. And physical activity is one of those things, if you put stress on your bones, they'll get stronger. So ladies, if you haven't done any weightlifting whatsoever before, start doing it now. It's never too late to start building, making sure your bones stay as strong as they can. Weightlifting for postmenopausal women is the best thing. I wanted to mention two other nutrients that are important. One is zinc. I went to a talk years ago when I was a graduate student by someone who did zinc research, and he said everyone in the U.S. is deficient in zinc. We should all have some supplements. Particularly if you're on any kind of diuretic, what happens is the diuretic actually makes you flush zinc out of you. And what are the symptoms? Zinc is very important for young children and teenagers for sexual maturation. If you're zinc deficient when you're older, it may be that you just don't feel very romantic towards your partner. That could be one possibility. That's how, and then you have dry skin, you lose your hair. Those are some other symptoms. So if you're on diuretic, you may need extra zinc. Another nutrient that's important for individuals, particularly those who are vegetarian or vegan, is for them to make sure that they get B12 supplements, because B12 is in animal products, and if you're not consuming any, that means you're going to be deficient in B12 fairly at some point. So that's when I'd recommend you take B12 supplements. Now, if you're concerned, if your diet is fine, and you're concerned, I would not recommend anything more than 1 a day. But then if you're also drinking the vitamin waters, and this is just a picture of here of a local grocery store. There's tons of all these vitamin waters now. You don't have to have that and the supplement. All right, probiotics. Let's talk a little bit about probiotics. What are probiotics? They are living microorganisms that we eat and consume, and they live in our intestinal tract. And we also have some on our skin. Actually, women, lactating women have also in their milk ducts, there's a particular type of bacteria. So an infant who's born and sterile gets inoculated during birth and then gets bacteria during breastfeeding. And the whole of that forming in our system is called a microbiome. You might start hearing that in the news. There's been a lot of research about that now. So microbiome is all of the bacteria in your system, and it weighs about 3 pounds. So if you took them all out of your body, you'd weigh 3 pounds less. But don't. Leave them there. They're good for you. And it forms what's called a symbiotic relationship. That means you are the host, and they like to live in you, and it's good for both of them. You might know some other symbiotic relationships as well. Now, what are some conditions that are improved through these probiotics? Intestinal conditions, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel. When you have bouts in those conditions, the duration is reduced and the severity is reduced. Food intolerances. We already mentioned the allicin, onion, garlic, but you might have lactose intolerance, gluten intolerance. Those are also improved by having that friendly bacteria in your intestinal tract. What about diarrhea and constipation, which are sort of ends of different scale? What happens is they get normalized with these probiotics so that the diarrhea doesn't last as long, or you won't have as much constipation. So there's an improvement in both directions with probiotic bacteria. Other conditions that are improved are rheumatoid arthritis. It helps relieve the arthritic symptoms in your joints. It can help the dermatitis that you get, some individuals get on the skin. It'll reduce those areas that you get. It helps with yeast infection in women, certainly reduces the incidence of, if you have the healthy bacteria in your system. Urinary tract infections are reduced. And also in children, respiratory infections are reduced in terms of duration of days again. Now, again, when you have an infection, you do need to go to the doctor and get antibiotics. What happens with antibiotics? It kills everything. So particularly in those days, you need to make sure that you have yogurt and other things that have these probiotic bacteria. There's also, Pennington is an obesity research center, and there's actually a lot of research now looking at the microbiome, which is the bacteria within your gut, and obesity. There's actually different types of bacteria living in those who are obese versus those who are lean. And if you get those who are obese to have same kind of composition of bacteria as the ones who are lean, they also will become lean, and vice versa. Isn't it interesting what the little bugs do? They also help with diabetes and the metabolic syndrome in terms of normalizing blood sugar, glucose, insulin levels. The probiotic bacteria also lower cholesterol because they help actually reduce the actual blood cholesterol level. They break down the bile. It's not reabsorbed. You have to use cholesterol from your bloodstream or the ones that you just consumed to build some bile, and that's how your cholesterol level will go down. It also helps lowering blood pressure. In terms of cancers, particularly intestinal cancers, it helps in 3 ways. One is you have the bacteria forming sort of a layer as a barrier so that whatever harmful products you might have or you might have formed during digestion, they are not in touch with your gut wall. So it keeps there's a barrier. They also activate your immune system. The probiotic bacteria sort of send signals to your body. They activate your immune system to fight against those harmful elements. And they neutralize harmful compounds. So they do many things in your intestinal tract to keep it healthy. Another thing it does is actually, there's a lot of talk about autism, how autism is increasing. And one aspect of autism in children is that they have problems with their gastrointestinal tract. It's similar issues as someone who has celiac disease, where their intestines are completely wiped out in terms of healthy cells. And giving those children probiotic bacteria will help that aspect of that autistic condition. Of course, it's multi-spectrum. There are a lot of issues involved. But probiotic bacteria can actually help that one aspect, normalize their intestinal tract. Am I running out of time? Okay. We already mentioned that antibiotics will kill everything. Your diet is very important. Eat a diet high in fiber to prevent. And then these are some sources of, I think you had some yogurt earlier today. These are in the store. It's also in some of the cereals, dill pickles. It's in waters. You can buy supplements. There's specific kind depending on the ethnicity, you know, whether it's Korean, Japanese, Russian. All right, I have some questions, though, because they're going to get some herbs. So where are my students? Are they still here? All right, everyone, is this true or false? Who said false? Raise their hand. We just need one, though. We have one, so randomly give out one to someone who raised their hand. Give one of those right here to this lady. Okay, microbiome. Which one of these is the correct answer? You'll get an herb. Just give the one in the black. Okay. 3. All right, who said 3? Okay. All right, what about this one? No. Who said no here real loud? Okay, the one in gray here. And what about this one? Okay, great. Thank you so much. And here's a study, by the way, going on in here, so I invite you to participate.